Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Jackie Van Ham, your girl in the know for all things motorcycle with your Fun Fact Friday garage show. I made it back, I'm home, I'm here in my garage. I figured we'd go ahead and do another show talking a little bit of engine basics. So I try to put in, some basic information, but I try to throw a couple curveballs your way to keep it interesting for those of you that are a little bit more mechanically inclined. So stick around, stay tuned. As always, I can see your comments, so feel free to peek in and say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know where you're checking in from. And if this is your first time watching the program, welcome. Hola, hola, konnichiwa, guten tag, bonjour, and buongiorno to all of our overseas viewers as well. Welcome. I'm back home. I'm here in my workshop. I've been busy working on a couple of projects down here, and we added another camper van to the stable, so we're starting to work on that. And anyway, it is just knee deep in project season around here. Hopefully you are working on something fun as well. So today's show, I wanted to talk about a very, very important part of your motorcycle or car, I suppose, but we're talking motorcycles here, motorcycle engine and motorcycle performance, and that is the clutch. So that's why today's show is totally clutch. We're going to be talking a little bit about clutches. What the hell are they? What do they do? What is this thing? What is this for? What happens in here? We're going to cover all of those basics on today's show and answer some questions for you. So feel free to peek in, say, hey, ask me any questions over in the comments. So let's get started. So our very first slide up on the screen is going to be the anatomy of a clutch. Outer basket, inner hub, friction plates, steel plates, a pressure plate, and springs. Along with your bike's final drive, motorcycle chains, belts, and shafts, the clutch is a component that doesn't get nearly enough credit. In fact, the lever on the left handlebar gets the nod for smooth starts when it's actually the assembly of the engine doing all the hard work. And it is a tough job. Without a clutch to couple and decouple the crankshaft and the transmission, you'd have a very hard time starting, stopping, and shifting your bike. In its simplest form, a clutch, wet or dry, is a mechanical device that permits the control of power transfer and motion between two assemblies. In a motorcycle, those two assemblies are the outer clutch basket and the input shaft of the transmission. The clutch basket is turned by the crankshaft, while the input shaft transmits power to the transmission and eventually the rear wheel. So in previous shows, which of course you've all followed along and watched, and if you haven't, click over to my Jackie Van Ham page. I move all the videos over there. We've talked all about transmission and how to get power to the rear wheel, and I did a really good show about that like a month and a half ago. I've been traveling a lot, so I haven't done a Fun Fact Friday in a minute. So you're gonna have to go look a little bit. But they either live down thread here in Choppertown or over on my Jackie Van Ham page. There we go. There's that light is blocking me. The Jackie Van Ham page. Go check it out over there. Anywho, so we've discussed all of those other components, but this is what gets important, is that the way that the power transfers, and it doesn't like slam the power from the engine to the rear wheel, is there's a lot of middle bits and pieces that have to happen in order to make that power transition be smooth. Especially if you think about in olden days, in the early 1900s motorcycles, you had to push start them, or you had to pedal them. You had to pedal them in order to get everything moving fast enough to start engaging the transmission and the power to the rear wheel, because there was not a clutch at that time, not really. So what the clutch does is it transfers power again from the crankshaft. The crankshaft, as you know, is turned by the pistons going up and down. I'm just hell-bent on walking into this microphone. Sorry, guys. So as the pistons go up and down, they go up and down, right? They transfer via a conrod, a connecting rod, to a crankshaft. The crankshaft spins. The crankshaft spinning is directly connected to your clutch. And this is directly connected here because, as you can see, this is a gear. See how that's a great big gear? So that's connecting to another gear that's on the end of your crankshaft. Early clutches, we're talking late 19th and very early 20th century here, were simply a pulley that put tension on a belt running between the engine and the rear wheel. Later, plate-type clutches were invented. These ran dry at first, but nowadays nearly all clutches are of the wet multi-plate variety, which you can see on the screen. The clutch pack is made up of a stack of alternating steel plates and friction plates. The steel plates have tangs along their outer diameter that engage with the clutch's inner hub, which is fixed to the end of the input shaft via splines. The friction plates have lugs along their outer edge that slot into the outer clutch basket. Springs, usually of the coil type but occasionally a diaphragm design, press the steel plates and the friction plates together, coupling the outer clutch basket to the inner hub, thereby transferring the crankshaft's rotation to the input shaft. So as you can see on the screen, you can even see they even include at the very top, that's a piston, so you can see it's connected to the crankshaft. Now over to the right hand side, the gear on the end of the crankshaft is connected to the clutch, to that basket. And then it's going to have another friction basket on the outside. Now, as you go along, you can see that that is connected in the middle to the input shaft, the output shaft. The output shaft has another sprocket on it, and that is what drives your rear wheel. But holy smokes, is that a whole lot of talking and a lot of mumbo jumbo, right? So let's go ahead and show you. So again, this guy is going to be what's connected to your drive shaft. So as the pistons are going up and down, the drive shaft, the crankshaft is spinning like crazy. It's spinning like crazy. It is maybe connected to some cams via a chain. But in this case, this is going to be directed to this clutch directly with this gear. So now as we go ahead, we can open this up. So that's what this guy is, and that's what it looks like on the inside. This hole and this guy right here is what's going to be connected to your input shaft, which is part of your transmission. These are some of the plates, and as you can see, these inside gears, this is what your input shaft is going to be making contact with. These springs that there's going to be on this, in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 springs are going to constantly keep all of this basket, all of these plates, the friction and the steel plates, under constant, super tight pressure. So this is important because when everything is all tightly held together and is totally secure and tightly held together under all of that pressure from all of those springs, that means everything is fully engaged. That means your engine is fully engaged now, and as the outside basket spins, the inside spins too. And so it's transferring directly power from the crankshaft all the way through to the input shaft, which is in turn your transmission. So this is an important thing to think about, because if this starts getting a little bit wonky or starts slipping, or these springs start getting worn and there isn't that totally firm, very aggressive pressure in that basket, then everything starts slipping and sliding around in there and you don't have the direct connect. And that's when you hear people say that their clutch is slipping. When they're saying their clutch is slipping, that can be wear on the springs. That can be wear on the friction plates. The friction plates, again, are not made entirely of steel. They do wear. This is a wear item. If you don't maintain them or don't keep the right oil in there or enough oil in there, or just through wear and tear, or if you race, these components all start breaking down. And then you'll start having that slippage in, again, that basket, because everything is not completely engaged, transferring power all the way 100%. So just an interesting thing to think about. And as a side note, again, talking about those springs that can be changed out or replaced, the thing that's really amazing to me is that motorcycle engines, and all engines really, are a collection of all these different little systems. And every single one of these systems throughout the entire engine, throughout the entire heart and guts of your motorcycle, every single little bit can be changed or modified or tuned or tweaked or swapped in order to get more performance or a different type of performance out of your machine. So there really is not any just one single answer. If you want to switch your machine up and you want to go racing, or you want to go race in the mud, or you want to have more torque, there's all these little things that you could tweak and change, in your transmission, your sprockets, your ratios, your springs. There's all sorts of little bits and pieces and ways to change and improve your motorcycle. But all that being said, every single one of those little pieces and bits also has to be maintained. It has to be changed out sometimes. This is part of the beast of owning motorcycles. These are all wear items. Things do fail. Things do break down. So I think this is just a really interesting thing to think about, that all of this is just a collection of all these little mini machines within your machine. So anyway, let's get back to the slides. So this is showing the input shaft, that when this whole thing is engaged and is all under all of that pressure, that outside drive shaft, or I should say the main drive shaft, which is turning the outside basket of your clutch, it's engaged now, so it in turn is turning your input shaft. That's just showing you some of the clutch plates, and these are alternating stacks of plates. There's entirely 100% steel plates, and then there's friction plates, which are made of a different material that do have a little bit of steel in them. And you can see now very clearly how some of those plates that have the teeth on the outside are the ones that are directly engaging with the outside basket. And the outside basket, again, is being driven by your drive shaft. And then you have alternating plates where the teeth are on the inside. The teeth on the inside are the ones that are engaging with that inside basket that is in turn turning the input shaft. Why are there so many plates, I wonder? So many more plates mean a greater load capacity for the clutch. To achieve sufficient load capacity on a single plate clutch, as it is on older BMWs and current Moto Guzzi's, a very large disc must be used, and that takes up a lot of space. Meanwhile, the multi-plate clutch on a Hayabusa uses a stack of smaller diameter plates and is easier to package. The 6 springs on a Hayabusa clutch only put about 400 pounds of pressure on the pack. That doesn't sound like much given the tremendous power that clutch has to handle, but that 400 pounds are acting on all 19 clutch plates, 10 friction plates, and 9 steel plates, plus the hub and pressure plate faces. And with friction comes heat, which is why nearly all modern bikes use wet clutches that are bathed in engine oil. The oil cools the clutch pack, keeps the plates clean, and in general provides smoother and quieter operation and longer service life than dry clutches. The oil isn't needed to lubricate the plates, but it does lower the friction between them, necessitating stiffer springs and or grippier clutch plates. A dry multi-plate clutch handling the same power can be smaller, since oil isn't reducing the friction between the plates, plus there's no fluid drag slowing things down. That's the primary reason Ducati stuck with a dry clutch design for so long, with ever increasing engine horsepower causing issues with smooth engagement and wear and increasingly stringent noise emission requirements. Even Ducati has switched to wet clutches. Clutches haven't changed a whole lot in the past 50 years, but the pack used to be larger in diameter with fewer plates. Today's packs tend to be deeper but smaller in diameter. This helps with packaging as well with engine dynamics, as the smaller diameter pack has less inertia and results in better throttle response. Besides the transition from steel to aluminum for the outer basket, inner hub, and pressure plate, the only other significant advance in clutch technology was the advent of the slipper clutch and its variations. So now let's take a look at an actual video.
This causes the spring to compress and apply force on the clutch pack, resulting in sufficient friction between the plates.
So, as she just mentioned now, this whole clutch is under engagement right now. It is held under tension by all of those springs at all times. The way that you are going to disengage this is when you pull in your clutch lever.
We can release the pressure on the clutch pack by pushing the pressure plate outwards. We can control this pressure by pulling or releasing the clutch lever. As the clutch lever is pulled or released, a cable or hydraulic system rotates an actuator arm as shown in the animation. This arm presses against the push rod towards the clutch.
See over to the right-hand side,
this rod goes through a duct inside the input shaft
it's being
and pushes the pressure plate, releasing the pressure on the clutch pack. This causes the spring to compress and apply force on the clutch.
So now as they just showed you in that video, they showed you that the way that this decouples or de-engages is the use of your clutch lever. And it took me a little while to kind of wrap my mind around that, I'm not gonna lie, because as you squeeze in, since it's being squeezed, in my mind, that's how the plates come together, right? But it's actually the exact opposite. As you squeeze in, a lever is pushing the plates wider apart. So as they go wider now they're all kind of spinning freely. They don't have that full engagement. There isn't all that power being transferred from your engine to the transmission anymore. They're just freely just kind of spinning around, waiting to have the pressure smushed back on them. That way they're rigid again, and that way everything spins together in unison. Now, what the hell is the point of all this? Well, it's because the RPMs, the rotations per minute of your crankshaft is way, 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 way faster than the rear wheel is spinning, again, that input and output shaft. So if they were directly engaged, if they just slammed together, they would never mesh upright. And when you screw up a shift and there's all that crunching and grinding sounds, that's because the plates were not totally separated and put together nicely. There is ways absolutely to shift your bike without using the clutch, but it does take some practice, and it can definitely cause wear and tear and damage on your engine, but you totally can do it. It just takes a little bit of practice. But slamming through the gears like that, that's how everything gets broken in there. So what the clutch does is it smooths everything out. Those friction plates literally just help both of those two times sync up a little bit easier, and then when they're fully engaged, everything spins together and it's at the same pace. So another type of clutch is called a slipper clutch. What this slipper clutch does is it creates a little bit of like a ramp on the inside of your clutch. It does look totally different from a traditional clutch. I mean, it looks kind of sort of similar, but as you can see, the inside is quite different. 20 years ago, slipper clutches were reserved only for race bikes, but today they can be found as standard equipment on a variety of street bikes. Slipper clutches incorporate ramps on the inner hub that automatically force the clutch plates apart during hard engine braking, allowing the clutch to slip ever so slightly so as to prevent rear wheel hop. This is especially helpful on the track when dumping several gears, entering a corner real quick, helps abate the effect of engine braking on the rear suspension. But slipper clutches have also proven helpful for street riders as they prevent chassis instability during unintended or sloppy shifts. A recent evolution is the slip and grip clutch. In addition to ramps that push the inner hub out during instances of high engine braking, there are also ramps that force the hub in during acceleration. This puts additional pressure on the clutch plates to help prevent slippage. Since the grip ramps squeeze the clutch pack during acceleration, lighter or fewer clutch springs can be used, resulting in a nice, easy pull at the lever. So that is what a slipper clutch looks like right now on the screen. As you can see from those cutouts and those angles, it literally is like a slide, and everything kind of slides open and closed together as you're either creating engine braking or as you're putting more power through the outer basket. So the way that slipper clutch works is it's the same thing. You still have to clutch, you still have to shift, everything still comes open and closed, but these little slides just ever so gently help everything kind of, as it gets going faster, as this outside basket starts spinning faster and faster and faster, it very, very gently kind of makes everything tighten up. It creates a little bit more pressure on the inside. And then as you engine brake, and now the inside is spinning really quick, but this isn't spinning quite so fast, it makes it come apart makes it pop apart just a tiny little bit. So that way it creates just a little bit of a slip. That way it doesn't want to create such drastic engine braking. If you've ever engine braked really hard, I don't want to say incorrectly, but if you ever engine brake downshifted real quick from fourth, third, second, you slam down 2 and then pop the clutch out, you heard that little because suddenly the rear wheel it quit spinning quite as fast as it had been, and then the two baskets are out of sync with one another. You know, that's what the clutch does, is it syncs up that input crank, and then it syncs up your drive shaft is what it's doing, basically, in essence. So that's what's going on with clutches. What did you guys think about that? That's an awful lot of information, I know, right? So just really interesting things to think about. Again, when you grab the lever on your handlebar, what you're doing is you're pushing the plates apart. You're disengaging or decoupling. You're decoupling the clutch. And as the video also showed you, when you pull in the lever, you know, the lever has a connection point up at the lever. There's a connection point down at that arm, and then there's another arm that goes through to push those plates apart. So that adds an additional 4 additional points of potential wear and tear. So when your clutch is slipping or your clutch is not engaging quite as nicely as you think it should be, don't panic and assume you've got to replace your clutch basket. Although, to be honest, this isn't really that huge of a deal. I mean, you have to go into your engine, of course, but this is not the end of the world. There's not a whole lot of voodoo and magic in here. It's literally just plates that occasionally need their oil to be added or cleaned, and then they occasionally need to have new plates put in. This isn't the worst thing in the world, but it also can mean that you need to be tightening your clutch cables at the very up at the lever, or down again at that contact point at that arm, or there could be something going on wrong at that arm. So there's a couple different ways to skin that cat if you do have some sort of clutch slippage going on. So what do you guys think about that for today's show? Was it totally clutch? What did you think? Go ahead and let me know in the comments. Peek in and let me know what's going on. Have you had clutch problems on your bike? Have you had to change or fiddle with your clutch? I know that I have. I added a gadget called an Easy Clutch by BMW because it has quite a heavy clutch. And because it's basically just taking in a tiny little bit of slack, which thereby makes it easier to engage and disengage that clutch lever. Because of that, now I've added an additional 2 points of wear and adjustment along that clutch lever line all the way through to the clutch. So occasionally that needs to be adjusted as well. But again, it's no big drama, especially on vintage bikes. These are all just hand turn, very, very easy, very straightforward things. On more modern bikes, it's a little bit different. They like to hide things and cover things up, and it's a little bit more tucked away. But those are just some things to think about, and just a couple of ideas about your Fun Fact Friday. What do you guys think about that? Today's show, your engine basics. Did I clear up any questions for you? Do you have any questions? Feel free to peek in and ask me over in the comments. I always go back through and read these and check in with you guys. But that's what's going on out here, is we're talking clutches and clutch baskets and plates, and what the hell is all this stuff? What is all this stuff for? But it is definitely an integral part, obviously, to your motorcycle. This is another very important key piece that I think it's really important to have a basic understanding of. And always just remember that if the clutch lever is all the way out, it is completely engaged. And when you pull in, you're pushing them apart, and then now everything can spin freely. That's just the quick, too long didn't read version of how clutches work. But thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Have a lovely weekend, no matter where you are out there in the world. Make sure you go check out my previous videos over on my Jackie, that light back there, man, over on my Jackie Van Ham page. Make sure you go give me a like and a follow over there. I always loved it when you guys peek in and send me comments. Have an awesome weekend, no matter where you're out there in the world. I will be back next week for my mid-week motorcycling event roundup. I'm home for the next week or two with my 2 brand new little puppy dogs, because they are still needing some training and some love. So I'm home for a hot minute. So I'll be back next week with 2 additional shows for you guys. So I'll see you then. Have a great weekend. I hope you're going riding. Please do be safe. Have an awesome ride if you're going out riding bikes this weekend. I sure hope that you are. And I will see you next week. Give me a follow over my Jackie Van Ham Instagram, or at the Jackie of all trades. Huge thanks to my show partner for this year, Vroom Your Room. Vroom Retract Vac. It totally sucks, and it's supposed to. My product partner for this month, my buddies over at Cardo. Thank you for the Cardo system. I can't wait to put that comm in my helmet and rock it. I am super, super excited about it. If you are looking for comms for your helmets, make sure you go check out Cardo. TwoStrokeTees.com. I've still got some t-shirts available to support the show. All Things Motorcycle Podcast downloads are available at any place that you are downloading kick-ass podcasts. My event partner for this coming month is going to be the Celebration of Speed down in Tennessee on October 17th. Hopefully I'll see you there. 2 awesome nights of racing. And of course, Choppertown Nation. I couldn't do it without you guys. Huge thanks to Zach, all of the other streamers out here, and more importantly, you guys for watching all of my shows. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I'll see you next week.